You probably know how much you earn every month, and you probably know the price of your rent, your phone bill, and your groceries, but there is a good chance you have never calculated what your lifestyle actually costs you every single day. That is because lifestyle spending rarely arrives as one large decision that makes you stop and think. Instead, it arrives quietly through the extra coffee you buy because you are tired, the delivery fee you accept because cooking feels inconvenient, the subscription you forgot to cancel, the slightly more expensive apartment you chose because it felt more comfortable, and the small upgrades that eventually become things you consider normal. None of these decisions looks financially dangerous by itself. The problem begins when your brain stops seeing them as decisions. Imagine that you earn $4,000 every month after taxes. Your rent is $1,200, transportation costs $300, groceries cost $500, utilities and basic bills take another $400, and you believe the remaining $1,600 gives you plenty of room. So you start spending what feels like small amounts. You spend $8 on coffee several times a week, $15 on lunch when work gets busy, $30 on entertainment, $12 on another subscription, and $25 on convenience whenever you do not feel like dealing with something yourself. At the end of each day, none of those purchases feel significant. That is exactly why they are so easy to miss. Your brain evaluates most purchases individually rather than evaluating the lifestyle they create collectively. This is one of the hidden psychological forces behind lifestyle inflation. When your income increases, your brain does not simply register that you have more money. It begins adjusting your definition of normal. A restaurant that once felt expensive can gradually become an ordinary place to eat. A basic phone can start feeling outdated. A $1,000 apartment upgrade can stop feeling like a luxury after several months because your mind adapts to the new environment. Psychologists call part of this process hedonic adaptation, which describes how people tend to become accustomed to changes in their circumstances. The excitement fades, and the new standard begins to feel ordinary. That creates a strange financial problem. You can earn more money without feeling significantly richer because your spending has quietly risen alongside your income. Behavioral finance makes this even more interesting because you are not necessarily making irrational decisions. You are responding to incentives, convenience, social expectations, and your perception of what you can now afford. When your income is low, spending $200 on something unnecessary may feel painful. After a raise, the same $200 can feel almost invisible because it represents a smaller percentage of your income. But the dollar has not become less valuable. Only your perception of the cost has changed. This is why percentage thinking can sometimes hide the real problem. Suppose your income increases from $4,000 to $5,000 per month. You might think, I have an extra $1,000 now. But if your lifestyle expands by $700, only $300 of that raise is actually improving your financial position. The remaining $700 has already been absorbed by your new normal. And this is where the mathematics becomes uncomfortable. Imagine that your lifestyle contains an average of just $20 in unnecessary spending each day. That does not sound dramatic. But $20 multiplied by 365 days equals $7,300 every year. If you invested that same $7,300 annually and earned an average 7% return over 30 years, the future value would be roughly $691,000, assuming consistent annual contributions and ignoring taxes and fees. The point is not that every $20 purchase should be eliminated. The point is that repeated small decisions become large financial outcomes when time gets involved. This is opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend today has another possible use. It could reduce debt, build an emergency fund, fund a future purchase, or be invested for a longer-term goal. When you spend it, you are not simply buying something. You are also giving up what that money could have become. But there is another psychological problem. You remember large purchases because they feel important. You rarely remember the small purchases because they feel routine. You may remember buying a $1,500 television, but you probably cannot remember every $12 purchase you made during the previous month. Your bank statement remembers them for you. And that is why one of the simplest ways to understand your lifestyle is to stop looking only at individual purchases and start looking at recurring patterns. Take your spending from the last 30 days and separate it into 3 categories. First, identify what you genuinely need. Second, identify what you deliberately value. Third, identify what you repeatedly purchase because it has become automatic. That third category is often where the hidden money is. Maybe it is food delivery. Maybe it is ride-hailing when public transportation would work. Maybe it is entertainment subscriptions. Maybe it is online shopping whenever you feel bored. Maybe it is constantly upgrading things that still work perfectly well. The objective is not to eliminate everything enjoyable. That would turn personal finance into punishment, and punishment rarely creates sustainable behavior. The objective is to make your spending intentional again. There is an important difference between spending money because something genuinely matters to you and spending money because you stopped noticing that you were spending it. Imagine 2 people earning exactly the same income. The first spends $600 every month on things they barely remember buying. The second spends the same $600 on experiences, hobbies, and purchases they deliberately chose because those things genuinely improve their life. The amount is identical, but the psychological value is completely different. The first person has lifestyle leakage. The second has intentional spending. Traditional personal finance often focuses on budgets, categories, and percentages, and those tools are useful, but a budget becomes much more powerful when you understand the behavior underneath it. You do not need to track every cent forever. But you do need enough awareness to discover which expenses are intentional and which ones have become invisible. A practical way to do this is to calculate your daily lifestyle cost. Take your total monthly spending and divide it by the number of days in the month. If you spend $3,600 in a month, your average lifestyle costs approximately $120 per day. That number can be surprisingly revealing. Because suddenly, the question changes. Instead of asking whether you can afford another $15 purchase, you start asking what your entire daily lifestyle actually costs. And if you discover that your lifestyle costs $120 every day, you can begin asking which parts of that $120 are genuinely necessary, which parts bring you meaningful value, and which parts simply happen because they have become normal. That is the real lesson. Your biggest financial problem may not be one terrible purchase. It may be thousands of ordinary decisions that became invisible through repetition. You do not usually become financially stretched because of one coffee, one delivery, or one subscription. You become stretched when enough small choices quietly become permanent. And the most dangerous part is that lifestyle inflation does not always feel like spending more. Sometimes it feels like finally living normally. That is why you never notice how much your lifestyle costs you daily. Your brain is designed to adapt to familiar conditions, while your financial future depends on noticing what familiarity is costing you. So the next time you look at your bank account and wonder where your money went, do not only search for one big mistake. Look for the lifestyle you have slowly built without realizing it. Because wealth is not only determined by how much money enters your life. It is also shaped by how much of your lifestyle becomes automatic after that money arrives. If this changed the way you think about your everyday spending, subscribe to Unspoken Finance, like this video, and comment below, what is one expense that became normal for you without you realizing how much it costs over an entire year? Remember, wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about understanding the unspoken side of money.